She was supposed to disappear that night, another invisible girl in a city that didn't care. Instead, Lena Carter sat down at the wrong table and looked into the eyes of the most dangerous man in the room. Adrian Volkov didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. One glance told him everything. She was starving, struggling, alone. And he wanted her. Not for a night. Forever. What started as a mistake became an obsession. What should have been terror became desire. And when his enemies came for blood, he'd kill them all. Because the woman at the wrong table had become his entire world. If you're hooked, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. The rain started the moment Lena's phone died. Of course it did. She stood under the restaurant awning, staring at the black screen like it might suddenly resurrect itself through sheer force of will. It didn't. Behind her, through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Aurelio's, Manhattan's elite laughed and clinked glasses that probably cost more than her rent. She shouldn't be here, couldn't afford to be here. But her roommate Jess had insisted, practically begged, that she give the blind date one shot. Kevin's friend from law school, Jess had said, applying Lena's eyeliner with the confidence of someone who'd never been stood up. Smart, successful, actually has a job. You need this. What Lena needed was to pay her electric bill. What she needed was for the restaurant where she waitressed to give her more than 20 hours a week. What she needed was to stop agreeing to things that made her feel like a charity case. She'd waited 45 minutes. Kevin's friend, Marcus, supposedly, never showed. No text, no call. Just Lena, nursing a water with lemon she couldn't even tip properly for, while the hostess shot her increasingly pitying looks. The rain came harder now, drumming against the awning like it was personally offended by her existence. "Screw it," Lena muttered, and pushed back through the door. She'd use the bathroom, pull herself together, and figure out how to get home without enough money for a cab and a subway system that would take an hour. The night couldn't get worse. That's when she saw the table. Tucked in the back corner, away from the main dining room, it sat empty. Not waiting for guests, empty. Actually, empty. Someone had already eaten there. She could see the remnants of a meal being cleared by a server who moved with the efficiency of someone who knew not to linger. More importantly, someone had left cash on the table. A lot of cash. Lena's heart kicked against her ribs. She shouldn't. She absolutely shouldn't. But her shift at the diner had been cut short today because they'd overstaffed, and her bank account had $17 in it, and the electric company didn't care about her dignity. The server disappeared into the kitchen. Lena moved. She didn't think. Thinking was how you talked yourself out of survival. She just walked to the table, slid into the booth, and reached for "That's my seat." The voice came from directly behind her, low and cold and so utterly controlled that it stopped her hand mid-reach. Lena's breath caught. She turned slowly. The man standing there didn't look angry. That would have been better. Anger, she understood. Anger had a temperature, a shape, an endpoint. This man looked assessing. He was tall. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, and dressed in a suit that probably cost more than her entire year's salary. Dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp angles and cold beauty. But it was his eyes that trapped her. Pale gray, almost colorless in the dim restaurant light, and completely, utterly focused on her. Lena's voice came out hoarse. "I'm sorry, You thought the table was empty." He didn't move, didn't blink. It wasn't. "I see that now." She started to slide out of the booth, her face burning. "I'll just stay." The single word hit like a command. Not harsh, not loud, but absolute. Lena froze, half standing, caught between the seat and escape. The man moved then, circling to the other side of the table with a predator's grace. He sat down across from her, those pale eyes never leaving her face. "Sit," he said again. Every instinct screamed at her to run. This was wrong. He was wrong. Everything about this moment felt like standing at the edge of a cliff in the dark, knowing one more step would send her plummeting. But Lena was so tired of running, so tired of being invisible, inconsequential, easily forgotten, and this man, whoever he was looking at her like she was the only person in the room. She sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sounds of the restaurant faded into background noise, laughter, conversation, the soft clink of silverware on china. All of it distant, unimportant. "You're not supposed to be here," he said finally. It wasn't a question. "No," Lena admitted, "I'm not." "But you came anyway." "I had a—" She stopped, the word date dying in her throat because it sounded pathetic now, in front of this man who radiated the kind of power that made first dates seem like children's games. "It doesn't matter. He didn't show." Again, not a question. "How did he know? How did you—" "You've been sitting alone for 40 minutes, drinking water, checking your phone every 3 minutes until it died." He leaned back, and somehow the casual posture made him more intimidating, not less. "You're wearing a dress that doesn't fit you quite right, borrowed probably, and shoes that are giving you blisters. You kept glancing at the door, then you stopped." Lena's skin prickled. "You were watching me." "I noticed things." "That's not an answer." Something flickered across his face, not quite a smile. "No, it's not." A server appeared at the table's edge, materialized like he'd been summoned by thought alone. Young, nervous, careful not to make eye contact with the man across from her. "Mr. Volkov, shall I—" "Bring everything," Volkov said, his eyes still locked on Lena. "She's hungry." The server vanished, Lena's pulse hammered. "I didn't say I was staying." "You didn't leave. You told me not to. And you listened." Now he did smile, but it was a dangerous thing, all edges and sharp amusement. "Interesting." "I'm not interesting. I'm just tired. Broke. Stupid enough to sit at a stranger's table because he had the kind of voice that made commands sound like gravity." "I should go." "You should eat." "I can't pay for—" "I didn't ask you to pay." He tilted his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that made her feel dissected. "When did you last have a real meal?" The question landed like a punch. Lena's jaw tightened. "That's none of your business." "You made it my business when you sat at my table." "I didn't know it was your table. I thought—" She stopped, shame burning through her chest because she knew exactly what she'd thought, what she'd been about to do. "You thought you'd take the money I left for the server." Still no judgment in his voice, just that terrible clinical observation. "You needed it." "Don't!" The word came out sharp. "Don't act like you understand." "I understand need." Something shifted in his expression, there and gone so fast she almost missed it. "I understand what it takes to survive in a city that would rather you disappear." Before Lena could respond, servers descended on the table like a well-choreographed dance. Plates appeared, appetizers, entrees, things she couldn't even name but that smelled like heaven and sin mixed together. Wine glasses, water, bread that was still warm, butter that melted on contact. It was obscene, excessive, more food than two people could possibly eat. Her stomach growled, loud enough that Volkov's eyes crinkled at the corners. "Eat," he said again, softer this time. "Please." That last word broke something in her. Maybe it was the gentleness. Maybe it was the fact that he'd said please like it cost him something. Or maybe it was just that she was starving and the food was right there, and she was so tired of being proud when pride didn't pay bills. Lena reached for the nearest plate. The first bite was transcendent. She'd forgotten food could taste like this, complex, layered, made with care instead of just necessity. She tried to eat slowly, to maintain some shred of dignity, but it was impossible. She was too hungry, had been hungry for too long. Volkov watched her eat, didn't touch his own food, just watched, with that same intense focus that should have made her uncomfortable, but somehow didn't. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed. "Lena. Lena Carter." "Lena." He said it like he was testing the shape of it. "I'm Adrian." "I know, the server called you Volkov." "And that name means something to you?" "It should." The way everyone in this restaurant moved around him, the deference, the fear poorly masked as respect. It should mean something. But Lena had been too busy surviving to pay attention to the power structures of Manhattan's elite. "No," she admitted. Should it? For the first time, something genuine crossed his face. Surprise, maybe. or amusement. Most people lie when I ask them that. I'm not most people. No, he agreed, his voice dropping lower. You're not. The weight of his attention was overwhelming. Lena forced herself to keep eating, to break eye contact, to remember how to breathe like a normal person, and not someone drowning. Why are you doing this? She asked finally. Feeding you? All of it. Letting me stay. Ordering enough food to feed an army. Looking at me like… She stopped, because she didn't have words for how he was looking at her. Like what? Like you can see through me. I can. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, and the movement brought him close enough that she could see flecks of darker gray in his eyes. You're exhausted, working 2, maybe 3 jobs that don't pay enough, living with a roommate who means well but doesn't understand why you can't just put yourself out there more. You haven't bought yourself anything new in months. Those shoes, you've repaired them yourself, haven't you? The heel. Lena's throat tightened. She had. With superglue and hope, because new shoes cost money she didn't have. You're running on empty, Adrian continued, his voice soft and relentless. And tonight, someone who was supposed to show you basic human decency couldn't even be bothered to send a text. So you sat in an expensive restaurant, drinking free water, wondering how you'd get home. And then you saw money on a table and thought, just for a second, about taking it. Stop. Her hands were shaking now. She pressed them flat against the table. Just stop. Why? Because I'm right? Because you don't know me. You can't just look at someone and… But I did. He reached across the table, and Lena's breath caught as his fingers brushed hers. Not grabbing, just touching, light as a question. I saw you the moment you walked in. You didn't belong here, and you knew it, but you came anyway because someone convinced you that you should try, that you should want this. His thumb traced the inside of her wrist, and her pulse jumped against his skin. But you don't want this, Adrian said. You want to not be hungry. You want to pay your bills without choosing between electricity and food. You want someone to see you as more than… What do you do, Lena? Waitress? Diner off Route 9. The words came out automatic. And I walk dogs. Sometimes I clean apartments. 3 jobs. Sometimes 4. There's a bookstore that needs weekend help. His expression darkened. Not with pity, she couldn't have stood pity, but with something else. Something that looked almost like anger, except it wasn't directed at her. The man who stood you up tonight, Adrian said carefully. What's his name? It doesn't matter. It does to me. The intensity in his voice made her shiver. Why? Because I want to know who was stupid enough to leave you waiting. You don't even know me. I know enough. His hand was still on hers, warm and steady and sure. I know you're proud enough to sit in a restaurant you can't afford rather than admit you've been stood up. I know you're desperate enough to consider stealing, but honest enough that you couldn't actually do it. I know you're smart enough to recognize danger when you see it. Are you dangerous? The question hung between them. Adrian's smile was slow, sharp. Very. Lena should have pulled her hand back, should have stood up, walked out, gone back to her small apartment and her overdrawn bank account and her safe, invisible life. She didn't. Why are you really doing this? She asked again. I told you you were hungry. That's not a reason to feed a stranger, isn't it? He tilted his head, studying her. What if I said I was bored? That watching you try so hard to maintain dignity while falling apart was the most interesting thing I'd seen in months? I'd say you're cruel. I am, sometimes. No hesitation, no apology. But not to you, not tonight. Why not? The question seemed to surprise him. He went quiet for a moment, his thumb still tracing idle patterns on her wrist, his eyes distant like he was trying to solve a puzzle he hadn't expected to encounter. I don't know, he admitted finally. But I'd like to find out. A server appeared, silent and efficient, clearing plates. More food came. Dessert, coffee, small, perfect things that looked like art and tasted like sin. Lena ate. Not because she was still hungry, the hollow ache had faded, but because every bite felt like defiance, like proof that she existed, that she mattered, that for one night she could sit in a place like this and not apologize for it. Adrian asked her questions, not prying ones, just questions. What did she study in college? English literature, before the money ran out.
Yeah, where was she from originally? Ohio, a town too small to matter. Did she like the city? Sometimes, when it wasn't crushing her. She asked him nothing. Somehow that felt safer. As long as she didn't know who he really was, what he really did, she could pretend this was normal. Just two people sharing a meal. But nothing about Adrian Volkov was normal. The way servers moved around him, never too close, never making eye contact unless necessary. The hushed quality that fell over nearby tables when he shifted. The sense that violence lived just beneath his expensive suit, sleeping but never tame. You're afraid of me, he observed, 2 hours into a meal that should have lasted 40 minutes. Yes, but you're still here. Yes. Why? Lena set down her coffee cup, meeting his eyes. Because I'm more afraid of going back out into the rain with nowhere to go and $17 in my account. The honesty felt like bloodletting, painful and necessary. Adrian's expression shifted. Something almost like respect flickered across his face. $17, he repeated, give or take. She laughed, but it came out bitter. So yes, I'm afraid of you, but I'm more afraid of being invisible. And you, whatever else you are, you see me. I do. He leaned back, his eyes never leaving hers. What if I offered you a solution? Lena's stomach dropped. What kind of solution? The kind where you don't have to choose between electricity and food, where you don't work yourself to death for pocket change, where you're not invisible. Nothing's free. No, he agreed. It's not. What would it cost? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. The restaurant had started to empty around them, the late-night crowd thinning. Soon they'd be asked to leave, and this strange, suspended reality would end. Your time, he said finally. Your company. Your trust. Those are big things. I'm offering big things in return. Like what? Security, stability, protection. He paused. Me. The single word landed like a detonation. I don't understand. I want you, Lena. No hesitation, no shame, just pure, direct honesty. I've wanted you since I watched you sit alone, too proud to cry, too tired to leave. I want to feed you, clothe you, keep you. I want to wake up knowing you're safe. I want to own the space you occupy. Her heart was a hammer. That's insane. You don't know me. I know enough, and I'll learn the rest. He stood, moving around the table with that same predatory grace. He offered his hand. Come with me tonight. Let me show you what I'm offering. This is crazy. Yes. I should say no. Probably. You could be anyone. A murderer. A psychopath. I'm definitely one of those things. His hand stayed extended, steady. But I won't hurt you, Lena. That's a promise. She looked at his hand, at his face, at the certainty in his eyes that said he'd already decided, and now he was just waiting for her to catch up. Every rational thought screamed at her to walk away, to go back to her safe, miserable, invisible life, to not get in a car with a stranger who looked at her like she was something precious and breakable and his. Lena took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and sure, and she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Good girl, Adrian murmured, and something in her chest cracked open at the approval in his voice. They left the restaurant together, moving through the space like they owned it. Maybe he did. People stepped aside, averted their eyes, became wallpaper. Outside, the rain had stopped. A car waited at the curb, black, expensive, anonymous. A driver stood by the rear door, face carefully blank. Adrian handed her inside like she was made of glass. The interior smelled like leather and money and the cologne he wore, something dark and complex that made her head spin. He slid in beside her, and the door closed, sealing them in soft darkness. The car pulled away from the curb. Where are we going? Lena asked, her voice smaller than she wanted. My apartment. He shifted closer, and she felt the heat of him along her side. I want to show you what I'm offering, and then you'll decide. Decide what? Whether to stay.
His hand found hers in the darkness, threading their fingers together, or whether to walk away and pretend this never happened. The city blurred past the windows, lights and shadows and countless invisible lives. Lena watched it all, feeling like she was floating outside her own body, making decisions that couldn't possibly be real. "I don't do this," she said quietly. "I don't go home with strange men." "I know." "Then why?" "Because this isn't about what you usually do." His thumb brushed over her knuckles, a touch so gentle it hurt. "This is about what you need, what you want, even if you won't admit it yet." "And what do I want?" "To be seen, to matter, to stop fighting every second of every day just to survive." He turned to look at her, his face half shadowed. "I can give you that, Lena. I can make you safe." "Why? Why would you do that for me?" "Because you sat at my table. Because you didn't run when you should have. Because I looked at you and saw—" He stopped, something raw flickering across his face. "I saw something I didn't know I was looking for." The car slowed, turned, entered an underground garage that gleamed with wealth and security. They rode an elevator in silence, Adrian's hand still wrapped around hers, his presence overwhelming in the small space. When the doors opened, they revealed an apartment that wasn't an apartment at all. It was a kingdom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Spaces too large to be warm. Furniture that looked like art. Lena stood in the center of it all, feeling impossibly small. "I can't," she whispered. I can't." Adrian moved behind her, close enough that she felt him more than saw him. "You can. You don't understand. I don't belong in places like this. I don't know how to be the kind of person who—" "Lena." His hand settled on her shoulders, steady and sure. "Look at me." She turned and his eyes caught hers, pale and certain. "You don't have to be anyone but yourself," he said. "That's all I want. You. Exactly as you are. I'm a mess. I know. I'm broke and tired, and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I know that too. Then why—" He kissed her. Not aggressive, not demanding, just a press of lips that tasted like coffee and certainty, a touch that rewired something fundamental in her brain. Lena's hands came up to his chest. To push him away, she told herself, except her fingers curled into his shirt and held on instead. When he pulled back, she was breathing hard. "Stay tonight," Adrian said against her lips. "Just tonight. Let me take care of you. And tomorrow, if you want to leave, I'll put you in a car and you'll never see me again. And if I don't want to leave, then we'll figure out what comes next." His forehead rested against hers, and she felt the tension in him, the barely controlled need. Together. It was insane, reckless, the kind of decision that changed everything. Lena made it anyway. "Okay," she whispered. "Tonight." The smile that crossed Adrian's face was fierce and possessive and terrifying. "Tonight," he agreed. And Lena Carter, who'd spent years being invisible, let herself be seen. She woke up in a bed that felt like sleeping on clouds. For a moment, Lena didn't remember where she was. The sheets were too soft, the mattress too perfect, the silence too complete. Then it came back in a rush. The restaurant, Adrian's pale eyes, the decision that had felt both inevitable and insane. She sat up fast, her heart racing. The bedroom was enormous, decorated in shades of gray and white that should have felt cold, but somehow didn't. Morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting everything in shades of gold. Her borrowed dress from last night hung on a chair, cleaned and pressed. Next to it sat clothes she didn't recognize, expensive-looking things in her size. The door opened. Lena grabbed the sheet, pulling it up to her chest, even though she was still fully clothed in the t-shirt and pajama pants Adrian had given her last night. He'd been a perfect gentleman, showing her to a guest room, making sure she had everything she needed, then disappearing with a simple "sleep well." But the man who entered now wasn't Adrian. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and the kind of posture that spoke of military training. He carried a tray that smelled like coffee and fresh bread. "Good morning, Miss Carter." His accent was faint, Eastern European maybe. "Mr. Volkov asked me to bring you breakfast." "Who are you?" "Victor. I manage the household." He set the tray on the bedside table with practiced efficiency. Mr. Volkov is in a meeting but asks that you make yourself comfortable. The clothes are for you. There's a shower through that door. Take your time." He was gone before she could formulate a response. Lena stared at the tray. Fresh fruit, pastries that looked handmade, coffee that smelled like it cost more per cup than she made in an hour, orange juice in crystal, cream in a small ceramic pitcher. Her phone sat next to the tray, fully charged. She grabbed it, her hand shaking slightly. 17 missed calls from Jess, 43 texts. The most recent one read, "If you're dead, I'm going to kill you." Lena typed quickly, "Not dead, long story, I'm okay." The response was immediate. "Where are you?" How did she even answer that? She looked around the room, at the wealth casually displayed, at the view of Manhattan spread out below like a kingdom. "Safe," she typed finally. "I'll explain later." She put the phone down before Jess could respond and picked up the coffee instead. It was perfect. Exactly the right temperature, the right strength. Like someone had been paying attention to how she took her coffee at the restaurant last night. The thought should have creeped her out. Instead, it made something warm unfurl in her chest. The shower was a revelation. Water pressure that felt like heaven, products that smelled expensive, towels so soft they felt illegal. Lena took her time, letting the hot water work out knots she'd been carrying for months. When she finally emerged, she felt almost human. The clothes fit perfectly. Dark jeans that actually flattered her, a soft sweater in deep green, undergarments still in packaging that she tried not to think too hard about. Even the shoes, simple flats that didn't pinch or rub. She studied herself in the mirror. She looked different. Not transformed exactly, just less tired, less invisible. The apartment was quiet when she ventured out. Her bare feet sank into carpet that probably cost more than a car. She followed the smell of coffee to a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine, all marble and stainless steel in space. Adrian stood at the counter, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Russian. He was dressed for business now. Different suit, same aura of controlled power. When he saw her, something in his expression shifted, softened. He held up one finger, "Wait," and continued his conversation. Lena caught words here and there, her college Russian rusty, but enough to pick up tone. He was angry about something, though his voice stayed level. Someone had disappointed him. That person should be worried. He ended the call and set the phone down. "You're awake." The breakfast was, "Thank you." The formality felt strange after last night's intensity. "I should probably go. I have a shift at—" "No, you don't." Lena blinked. "Excuse me?" "I called the diner this morning, told them you wouldn't be coming in." He poured coffee into a mug, added cream without asking, and handed it to her. "Or the dog walking service. Or the cleaning company." The warmth in her chest turned cold. "You what?" "You work too much. You need rest." "You had no right." Her hands tightened on the mug. "Those are my jobs. I need those jobs." "You need sleep more. And food. And to not run yourself into the ground for people who don't value you." "That's not your decision to make." "I'm making it anyway." No apology in his voice, just certainty. "You're staying here today." Lena set the mug down carefully, afraid if she held it any longer, she'd throw it. "I agreed to one night. That's it. I didn't sign up for you controlling my life. I'm not controlling your life. I'm taking care of you. I don't need taking care of." "Yes," Adrian said quietly, "you do." The words hit like a slap. Because he was right, and that made it worse. She did need help, desperately, but accepting it from him felt like giving up something she couldn't name. "I can't just—" She gestured helplessly at the apartment, at him, at everything. "I have responsibilities, bills, a roommate who's probably filing a missing person report right now." "Call her. Tell her you're fine. The bills are handled." "What does that mean?" Adrian pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, then showed it to her. A banking app. Her banking app. Except the balance didn't read $17 anymore. It read $50,000. Lena's vision swam. "What did you do?" "Gave you breathing room." You can't put money in my account." "I already did. Take it back." "No." She wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, wanted to kiss him and hit him in equal measure because how dare he? How dare he be exactly what she needed while simultaneously terrifying her? "This is insane," she said, her voice shaking. "I met you 12 hours ago. You don't do this for strangers." "You're not a stranger anymore." He stepped closer, and she fought the urge to step back. "And I told you last night, I want you. That means making sure you're safe, fed, not working yourself to death. It means giving you space to breathe." "I don't understand why." "Neither do I. Not entirely." His hand came up, brushing a strand of damp hair back from her face. "But I'm going to figure it out. And so are you. What if I want to leave?" "Then you leave. The money's yours either way. I'm not trying to trap you, Lena. I'm trying to give you a choice you've never had before." "What choice?" "To not be desperate. To decide what you want based on want, not need." His thumb traced the line of her jaw. "Stay today. Let me show you what this could be. And if by tonight you want to walk away, I'll accept that." "You will?" Something dark flickered through his eyes. "I'll accept it. I won't like it. But I won't stop you." The distinction felt important, dangerous. "One day," Lena said. "One day." He was lying. They both knew it. One day would become 2, then 3. Then she'd lose count because time moved differently in his orbit. But for now, the lie felt necessary, safe. "I need to call Jess. Use the study. Second door on the left." He released her, stepping back. "I have meetings until this afternoon. Victor will get you anything you need. Make yourself at home." Then he was gone, leaving her standing in a kitchen worth more than everything she'd ever owned combined, holding coffee that had gone cold. The study was all dark wood and leather, books lining the walls in languages she recognized and some she didn't. Lena curled into a chair by the window and called her roommate. Jess answered on the first ring. "Where the hell have you been?" "I'm okay, I promise. Something came up." "Something? Lena, you disappeared. Marcus texted this morning saying he never even showed up because he got the restaurant wrong, and I've been calling you for hours." "Wait." Lena sat up straighter. "He got the restaurant wrong?" "Yeah, he was at some Italian place in Brooklyn. Apparently there are 2 Aurelios, and is that really what you're focusing on right now? Where are you?" Lena looked around the study, at the original artwork on the walls, at Manhattan spread out below. "I'm safe. I met someone." Silence. Then, "You met someone at the restaurant?" "Yes." "And you went home with him?" "Yes." "Lena, I know how it sounds. It sounds like you've lost your mind. You don't do this. You're the responsible one. You're the one who lectures me about stranger danger, and I know." Lena closed her eyes. "I know, okay? But Jess, it's different." "Different how?" How did she explain Adrian? The way he looked at her like she mattered? The casual way he'd eliminated every source of stress in her life without asking permission? The feeling that she'd stumbled into something bigger than herself, something that would either save her or destroy her. "He sees me," she said finally, "and I'm tired of being invisible." Jess was quiet for a long moment. "Is he treating you okay?" "Better than okay." "Do you feel safe?" Did she? Lena thought about Adrian's controlled violence, the way people moved around him like he was a loaded gun. She thought about his certainty, his possessiveness, the promise in his voice when he said he'd take care of her. "Yes," she said. "I do." "Okay," Jess exhaled. "Okay, but Lena, please be careful and check in, okay? Every day. So I know you're alive." "I will. I promise." After they hung up, Lena sat in the study for a long time, watching the city move below. From this height, everyone looked small, insignificant, like pieces on a board that Adrian moved with invisible hands. Victor appeared with lunch, soup, salad, bread that was still warm. He didn't ask if she wanted it, just set it down and left. Like her comfort was assumed, expected. She ate alone, scrolling through her phone, checking her bank account over and over like the number might disappear. $50,000. It didn't feel real. Her shift at the diner would be ending soon. Usually she'd rush to the dog-walking gig, then maybe squeeze in a few hours at the cleaning service. By midnight, she'd collapse into bed, too exhausted to shower, and do it all again the next day. Now she sat in a quiet apartment, fed and warm and rested, and didn't know what to do with herself. The apartment had a library, an actual library with first editions and signed copies and books she'd only ever read in worn paperbacks from the thrift store. Lena lost herself in the stacks, running her fingers over spines, reading dedication pages, trying to understand who Adrian Volkov was through what he kept. "You like to read." She jumped, spinning around. Adrian stood in the doorway, jacket gone, tie loosened. He looked tired, but his eyes tracked her with that same unsettling focus. "I studied literature in college," she said, "before I had to drop out." "Why did you drop out?" "Money? The usual boring story." She turned back to the shelves, uncomfortable with his attention. "You have a good collection." "Most of it came with the apartment. I don't have time to read much anymore." He moved into the room, and she felt him more than heard him. "But I like knowing they're here. That I could, if I wanted to." "What do you do?" The question came out before she could stop it. "For work, I mean. You never said." "Import and export." The answer was smooth, practiced. "Mostly European markets. Boring corporate things." It was a lie. Or at least not the whole truth. Lena had spent enough time around liars, at the diner, dealing with customers who claimed their credit cards were declined by mistake, men who promised tips that never materialized, to recognize the careful construction of the words. "You don't have to tell me," she said. "I'm not asking for You should ask. You should demand to know exactly who I am and what I do before you decide to stay." He was closer now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, feel the heat of him. "But I'm not going to lie to you, Lena. Not about important things. So if you ask, be prepared for answers you might not want." Her throat went dry. "Are you a good person?" "No." The certainty in his voice should have sent her running. Instead, she turned to face him fully. "Are you a bad one?" "That depends on who you ask." His hand came up, cupping her face with a gentleness that belied the danger in his eyes. "I do what's necessary to protect what's mine. Sometimes that means making choices other people would call monstrous." "And what's yours?" "You are." No hesitation, no doubt. "From the moment you sat at my table, you became mine. I know that's not rational. I know it's not fair, but it's true." Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. "You can't just claim people." "I just did." "Adrian," he kissed her, not like last night's gentle question, but like a man staking a claim. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back, and she made a sound that was half protest, half surrender. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "Tell me to stop," he said against her lips. "Tell me this is too much, too fast, and I'll put distance between us. I'll give you space." "I don't want space." "Then what do you want?" The question hung between them, enormous and terrifying. "I want to not be scared all the time," Lena whispered. "I want to wake up without immediately calculating whether I can afford to eat that day. I want to feel like I matter to someone." "You matter to me. You don't know me." "I'm learning." His forehead rested against hers. "Stay, Lena. Not just today. Really stay. Let me take care of you. Let me make your life easier." "What do you get out of it?" "You. Simple. Direct. I get to see you smile without that edge of desperation. I get to watch you read in my library without worrying about your next shift. I get to keep you safe. That's not a fair trade. It's the only one I'm offering." She should say no, should protect herself from the inevitable crash when this turned out to be temporary, when he got bored or she disappointed him or reality reasserted itself. But Lena was so tired of protecting herself, of being sensible, of surviving instead of living. "Okay," she breathed. "I'll stay." The smile that crossed his face was fierce and possessive and made her feel like she'd just signed something in blood. "Good." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Come on, there's something I want to show you." He led her through the apartment to a room she hadn't explored yet. When he opened the door, Lena's breath caught. It was a bedroom, but not a guest room. This was personal, decorated in soft blues and grays with a reading nook by the window and a desk that faced the view. Clothes hung in the closet, all in her size, ranging from casual to formal. Shoes lined the floor. Jewelry sat on the dresser. When did you... She couldn't finish the sentence. This morning, while you were sleeping. Adrian watched her face carefully. If you don't like any of it, we'll change it. This is yours, Lena. Your space. You can lock the door if you want privacy. You can change everything if it doesn't feel right. But I wanted you to know that this isn't temporary. I'm not offering you a night or a week. I'm offering you a home. Tears burned behind her eyes. Why? Because you deserve one. He pulled her against his chest, and she let herself be held, let herself feel safe for the first time in years. Because I can give you one. Because I want to. This is crazy. I know. People don't do this. They don't build someone a life overnight. I do. His hand stroked through her hair. I see what I want, and I take it. I wanted you safe and cared for and mine, so I made it happen. What if I screw this up? You won't. You don't know that. I know enough. He pulled back to look at her, his pale eyes intense. You're stronger than you think, Lena. You've been surviving on nothing, fighting every day just to exist. Imagine what you could do if you weren't fighting just to breathe. Imagine who you could become. The possibility felt too big to hold, too dangerous to want. But she wanted it anyway. That night they ate dinner together, food Victor prepared that tasted like love and comfort and care. Adrian asked her about books, about the life she'd left behind in Ohio, about dreams she'd given up on. He listened like every word mattered, like she mattered. When she finally retreated to her new room, her room, with her clothes and her space, she stood at the window for a long time, watching the city lights. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jess. You okay? Lena typed back, Yeah, I think I am. She crawled into the softest bed she'd ever known and slept without nightmares for the first time in months. But in the morning, everything changed. She woke to voices, Adrian's, sharp with anger, and another man's, urgent and worried. Lena pulled on a robe and crept to the doorway, listening. Don't care what he thinks, Adrian was saying. He crossed a line. He's threatening retaliation, says you broke the agreement. I didn't break anything. I ended a partnership that wasn't working. Adrian, he's talking about going to war over this. Silence. Then, let him. Lena's blood went cold. War. They were talking about war like it was a business decision. She must have made a sound because suddenly Adrian was there, his expression shuddering the moment he saw her. Go back to bed, he said quietly. What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about. You're talking about war. His jaw tightened. It's handled. It doesn't sound handled. She stepped fully into the room, and the other man, young, nervous, clearly uncomfortable, looked away. Adrian, what's going on? Business, that's all. Violent business. He didn't deny it. Couldn't deny it, not with the evidence hanging in the air between them. I told you I wasn't a good man, Adrian said finally. I told you to ask questions if you wanted answers. So ask, Lena, but be ready for the truth. Her hands shook. She clasped them together. What do you really do? I run an organization. We handle acquisitions, territory, protection services. Protection from what? From people like me. The words landed like stones. Lena looked at him, really looked, and saw the violence he usually kept leashed, the capacity for destruction hidden under expensive suits and cultured manners. You're in the mob, she said flatly. That's a crude term, but essentially, yes. The room spun. She grabbed the doorframe for support. Lena, don't. She held up a hand. Just give me a minute. He'd told her. He'd warned her. She just hadn't wanted to see it. I need air, she said. You can't leave. Excuse me? It's not safe. If someone's watching the building, if they see you... His expression was grim. You're mine now. That makes you a target. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's. And I'm not a prisoner. You're under my protection. I didn't ask for it. You accepted it the moment you stayed. His control cracked, just slightly. You think you can walk out of here and go back to your old life? It's too late for that. People know about you now. They'll use you to get to me. Then let me go. Tell them I don't matter. I can't do that. Why not? Because it would be a lie.
He moved closer, his intensity overwhelming. You matter, Lena. More than anything has mattered to me in years, and I can't let you walk into danger because you're scared of who I am. I'm not scared of who you are. I'm scared of what you do. They're the same thing. She knew that, had known it somewhere deep down from the moment he'd told her he was dangerous. But knowing and facing it were different things. I need to think, she said. Then think. But do it here, where you're safe. Safe from everyone but you. The words hung between them, sharp and true. Adrian's expression went carefully blank. I would never hurt you. Not physically, but Adrian, you're asking me to accept that you kill people, that you hurt people. How am I supposed to? Her voice broke. How am I supposed to be okay with that? I don't know, he admitted, but I'm asking you to try. Why? Why me? Because you're the first real thing I've felt in years. Because when I look at you, I see something worth protecting, worth changing for. He cupped her face, and she hated how right his touch felt. Stay, Lena. Let me prove that I can keep you safe, that I can be what you need. And if you can't, then you leave, and I'll make sure you're protected even if you're not with me. It was a promise and a threat wrapped together. She'd never be free of him completely, but maybe she didn't want to be. I need time, she said finally. Take all the time you need. Just take it here. She nodded, exhausted, and retreated to her room. But sleep wouldn't come. She lay in the dark, listening to Adrian move through the apartment, fielding calls in harsh Russian, preparing for whatever war was coming. And she realized with stunning clarity that she was already in too deep to walk away. 3 days passed in careful silence. Lena stayed in her room mostly, venturing out only when hunger forced her to. Victor brought meals on a schedule she hadn't requested, always perfectly timed, always exactly what she didn't know she wanted. Adrian gave her space, though she felt his presence constantly. The low murmur of phone calls through walls, footsteps in the hallway at odd hours. The weight of his attention even when he wasn't in the room. On the fourth morning, she found him asleep on the couch in the living room, still dressed in yesterday's clothes, phone clutched in one hand like a weapon. He looked different asleep. Younger. The hard edges of his face softened into something almost vulnerable, almost human. Lena stood there longer than she should have, studying him, trying to reconcile the man who'd fed her with gentle hands and the man who spoke casually about war. They were the same person. That was the part she couldn't quite process. His eyes opened, finding her instantly. No grogginess, just immediate, complete awareness. You're staring, he said, his voice rough with sleep. You fell asleep out here. Didn't want to be too far away. He sat up, running a hand through his hair. In case you needed something. Or in case I tried to leave. That too. No apology, just honesty. Lena moved to the windows, looking out at the city waking up below. Is the war happening? We're negotiating. What does that mean? It means Dmitry Kozlov is deciding whether his pride is worth dying for. Adrian stood, moving to stand beside her. Not touching, but close. He thinks I disrespected him. Ended our partnership without proper notice. Did you? Yes. Why? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Because he wanted to expand into territories that would have required hurting people who didn't deserve it. And I'm trying to... He stopped, jaw tight. I'm trying to be less of a monster. The admission cost him something. She could hear it in his voice. Because of me, Lena said. Because of you. That's not fair. You can't put that on me. I'm not putting it on you. I'm choosing it because of you. There's a difference. He turned to face her fully. For years, I did what was necessary. Built an empire on fear and violence because that's how you survive in this world. But then you sat at my table and I saw... His hand came up, hesitating before touching her face. I saw someone worth being better for. I didn't ask you to change. I know. That's why it matters. Lena closed her eyes against the intensity of his gaze. What if you can't? What if this is who you are, and trying to be something else just makes it worse? Then I fail. But at least I tried. And what happens to me while you're trying? What happens when someone like Kozlov decides I'm the easiest way to hurt you? I keep you safe, no matter what it costs. That's what I'm afraid of. She opened her eyes, and he was so close, so solid, so certain. I'm afraid of how far you'll go, of what you'll do in my name. I'd do anything. I know, that's the problem. Adrian's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen and something dangerous flickered across his face. I have to take this. He disappeared into his office, and Lena was left standing at the window, feeling like she was watching a storm gather on the horizon. Victor appeared with breakfast, setting it down on the dining table without comment. But before he left, he paused. Miss Carter, may I say something? Lena turned, surprised. Victor rarely spoke beyond the necessary. Of course. I've worked for Mr. Volkov for 15 years. I've seen him make difficult choices, necessary ones, but I've never seen him hesitate before. Victor's expression was carefully neutral. Until you make him hesitate. Consider alternatives. That's a rare gift. Or a dangerous weakness. Perhaps both. Victor inclined his head slightly. But weakness can be strength in the right context. A man who has nothing to lose is predictable. A man protecting something precious is far more formidable. He left before she could respond. Lena picked at her food, Victor's words circling in her head. She was still sitting there when Adrian emerged from his office, his expression grim. Pack a bag, he said without preamble. Her stomach dropped. Why? We're leaving the city for a few days. There's a place upstate, secure, away from... He stopped, choosing his words carefully. Away from complications. Adrian, what happened? Kozlov made his choice. He's pushing forward. Adrian's voice was flat, controlled, but she could hear the violence underneath. I need you somewhere safe while I handle it. Handle it how? However I have to. Lena stood, her chair scraping against the floor. You're going to kill him, if necessary. And if I ask you not to? His eyes met hers, and she saw the answer before he spoke. Then I'd tell you that some choices aren't mine to make anymore. He's threatening my people, threatening you. I won't let that stand. So that's it? Someone challenges you and they die? Someone threatens what's mine and they face consequences. Yes. No hesitation, no doubt. I won't apologize for protecting you, Lena. Not to him. Not to anyone. I didn't ask you to protect me. You didn't have to. His control cracked, voice rising. You sat at my table, vulnerable and struggling and so damn determined not to show it. And I decided right then that no one would hurt you again. Not landlords, not employers who underpay you, not men who stand you up, and sure as hell not Russian mobsters with delusions of power. The silence after his outburst was deafening. Lena's hands shook. You can't just decide that. You can't just claim someone's life and reshape it without permission. I already did. Then unclaim it. Let me go. No. The single word was absolute, final. You're holding me prisoner. I'm keeping you alive. He moved closer, and she forced herself not to retreat. Kozlov knows about you now. His people have been watching this building. They know you're important to me. If I let you walk out that door, you'd be dead or taken within an hour. You're lying. Am I? He pulled out his phone, swiped through photos, then held it out to her. The images made her blood run cold. Her leaving the building with Victor 3 days ago to get fresh air. Her at the coffee shop down the street. Her looking in a bookstore window, unaware she was being photographed. In every photo, she was centered, targeted. When were these taken? Her voice came out small. Over the past 72 hours, they're building a file, learning your patterns, waiting for the right moment. Nausea rolled through her stomach. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were already pulling away. Already questioning whether staying was worth it. I didn't want to scare you more than I already had. His jaw tightened. But I won't let you walk into danger blind. So yes, we're leaving. Yes, I'm going to handle Kozlov. And yes, you're going to hate me for it. But you'll be alive to hate me, and that's all that matters. Lena sank back into her chair, her legs suddenly unreliable. This is insane. My life was... It was hard, but it was mine. It was safe. Your life was slowly killing you.
You were one bad month from being homeless, one illness from catastrophe. That's not safety, Lena. That's just slow motion disaster. At least it was my disaster, and now you're mine. He crouched in front of her, his hands on the armrests, caging her in. I know you're scared. I know this isn't what you signed up for. But I'm asking you to trust me. Come upstate. Let me keep you safe while I end this. And then we'll figure out what comes next. What if there is no next? What if you don't come back? Something raw crossed his face. I'll come back. I always do. You can't promise that. Watch me. He stood, offering his hand. Please, Lena. I need to know you're safe. I can't think clearly if I'm worried about you. She looked at his hand, at his face, at the desperate certainty in his eyes. This was the moment, the choice that would define everything that came after. She could refuse, demand to leave, take her chances with Kozlov's people and whatever life she could rebuild from the ashes. Or she could take his hand and step fully into his world, knowing there might not be a way back out. Lena took his hand. Relief flooded his expression, quickly controlled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm still angry with you. I can live with that. They left within the hour. Victor drove them in an unmarked SUV with windows tinted so dark the city disappeared into shadows. Adrian spent the ride on his phone, speaking in rapid Russian to people whose names Lena didn't recognize, planning, strategizing, preparing for war. She watched the landscape change from concrete to trees, city to country, feeling like she was being erased from the world she knew. The house upstate wasn't a house. It was a compound, sprawling and modern, set back from the road behind gates and walls, and enough security to make a prison jealous. Armed men nodded at Adrian as they passed, their eyes sliding over Lena with professional assessment. How many people work for you? She asked as they entered the main building. Enough. Adrian guided her through rooms decorated with the same expensive impersonality as his city apartment. This is a safe house. We use it for hiding, for regrouping. He led her upstairs to a bedroom that was somehow both luxurious and sterile. You'll stay here. There's food, books, anything you need. Victor will be nearby, and I've assigned guards specifically to watch me, to protect you. Same thing. Adrian's expression tightened. I need to leave soon. Kozlov agreed to meet, neutral territory, but I don't trust him not to try something. Fear spiked through her chest. Then don't go. I have to. This ends tonight, one way or another. Adrian, he kissed her, hard and desperate, and like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. I'll come back, he whispered. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep. I've never broken one to you yet. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone in a house full of strangers, waiting for news that would either bring him back or confirm that she'd been right to be scared all along. The hours crawled. She tried to read, but the words blurred. Tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't quiet. Victor brought dinner at 8, his expression carefully blank. Any news? She asked. Not yet, Miss Carter. How long do these things usually take? As long as they need to. It wasn't comforting. At midnight, she heard raised voices downstairs. Not angry exactly, but urgent. Lena crept to her door, opening it just enough to hear. Can't reach him. Last check-in was 2 hours ago. Send backup. Already mobilized, but if Kozlov planned an ambush, Adrian's too smart for that. Is he? When it comes to her, he's been making emotional decisions. Her. They were talking about her, blaming her for whatever was happening. Lena closed the door, her heart racing. She paced the room, trying to convince herself that Adrian was fine, that he'd come back like he promised, that this was all just paranoia and fear. At 2 a.m, she heard vehicles, lots of them. She ran to the window. SUVs poured through the gates, disgorging men in dark clothing. Some limped, some were bloodied, all moved with military precision. And then she saw him. Adrian climbed out of the lead vehicle, his suit jacket gone, shirt torn and stained with blood that might or might not be his. He moved stiffly, like something hurt, but he was alive. He was alive. Lena didn't remember running downstairs, didn't remember pushing past the guards who tried to stop her. She just knew she was suddenly in the entryway, And Adrian was there, and his eyes went wide when he saw her. "Lena, you shouldn't—" She hit him, an open palm slap across his face that snapped his head to the side and made the room go silent. "Don't you ever—" Her voice broke. "Don't you ever disappear like that again?" Adrian touched his reddening cheek, something like wonder crossing his face. "You were worried." "Of course I was worried, you idiot. I thought you were dead. I told you I'd come back. And I told you not to make promises you can't keep." Tears were streaming down her face now, hot and furious.
"You were gone for hours. No one would tell me anything. I thought—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Adrian pulled her against his chest, ignoring the blood and dirt and the fact that they had an audience. "I'm sorry. The meeting went longer than expected. Kozlov brought reinforcements. It got complicated." Complicated. She pulled back to look at him. Really look. "You're bleeding." "Not badly." "Adrian, a graze. I've had worse."
His hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away her tears. "But I'm here. I'm alive. And it's over." "Over how?" His expression went cold, flat. "Kozlov won't be a problem anymore." She understood what he wasn't saying. "You killed him. I ended a threat. That's all. That's not all. That's murder. That's survival." He didn't look away, didn't flinch. He had a dozen men positioned around the meeting site. When talks broke down, they opened fire. I defended myself and my people. If I'd hesitated, we'd all be dead. "But you didn't hesitate." "No, I didn't." His voice softened slightly. "I couldn't. Not when I had someone waiting for me to come home." The words hit her like a physical blow. Home. When had this become home? "I need to process this," she said, pulling away from him. I can't. Lena, no, just give me space, please." She retreated to her room, ignoring his protests, ignoring Victor's concerned expression. She locked the door and collapsed on the bed, trying to breathe through the panic clawing at her chest. Adrian had killed someone, maybe multiple someones. He'd walked into a meeting expecting violence and delivered it without hesitation. That was who he was, who he'd always been. And she'd worried about him, cried for him, run to him like he was her gravity. When had she stopped being scared and started being invested? A knock at the door made her jump. "Lena," Adrian's voice carefully controlled, "I know you need space, but I also need you to know something." She didn't answer, but she didn't tell him to leave either. "Tonight, when Kozlov's men opened fire, I had one thought. Only one." His voice was quiet through the door. "I thought about you, about how you'd stood at the window watching the city, looking so small and lost. About how you'd hit me just now because you cared enough to be angry. About how I'd promised to come back and I couldn't break that promise." Lena pressed her hand against the door, tears streaming silently. "That thought kept me alive," Adrian continued. "It made me faster, sharper, more ruthless than I've been in years, because I had something worth living for, worth killing for." A pause. "I won't apologize for what I did tonight, but I'm sorry that it hurt you. That's the last thing I ever wanted." She heard his footsteps retreat, and only then did she open the door. He was halfway down the hall, favoring his left side, exhaustion written in every line of his body. "Adrian." He turned, and the hope in his expression broke something in her. "You should get that graze looked at," she said. "Victor probably has medical supplies." "I will." "And you should shower. You smell like gunpowder and copper." "Okay." "And then—" She swallowed hard. "And then you should probably rest. Because tomorrow, we need to have a real conversation about what this is and what I'm doing here, and whether I can live with who you are." "And can you?" The question was tentative, almost vulnerable. Lena looked at him, blood-stained and dangerous, and watching her like she held his entire world in her hands. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But I didn't run when you told me to. I'm still here. That has to mean something. It means everything." She nodded once and retreated back into her room, but this time she didn't lock the door. In the morning, she found Adrian asleep in the chair outside her room, freshly showered but still keeping watch like he couldn't quite believe she'd stayed. Lena stood there for a long moment, studying him in the early light. He'd killed for her, would kill again if necessary. That should terrify her. Instead, for the first time in her life, she felt protected, chosen, worth fighting for. She didn't know if that made her strong or broken, but she knew she wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. Maybe not ever.
She touched his shoulder gently, and Adrian's eyes snapped open, instantly alert. No grogginess, just immediate, complete awareness that would have been unsettling if she hadn't started expecting it. "You slept in a chair," Lena said. "Couldn't leave you unprotected. There are armed guards everywhere." "I know. I still couldn't leave." He stood, wincing slightly. The graze on his side was bandaged now, white gauze visible through his thin t-shirt. "How are you?" "That's my question." "You're the one who got shot." "Grazed. There's a difference." "Not much of one." She crossed her arms, studying him. "We need to talk." "I know." He gestured toward the stairs. "Coffee first?" They sat in the compound's kitchen, a space too industrial to feel homey but warmer than the rest of the house. Victor had left fresh pastries and fruit, disappearing before either of them arrived, giving them privacy or maybe just avoiding the tension that crackled between them. Lena wrapped her hands around her mug, gathering her thoughts. "I can't keep doing this. The not knowing, the surprises. If I'm going to stay, and I'm not saying I am, but if I even consider it, I need honesty, complete honesty." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What you really do. How bad it is, what I'm signing up for if I stay." Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his cup. When he spoke, his voice was measured. "Careful. My father built an empire on violence. Protection rackets, gambling, weapons. He was brutal, efficient, and everyone feared him. When he died, I inherited everything. The business, the territory, the enemies." He met her eyes. "I was 22. I could have walked away, sold it off, disappeared, but I didn't." "Why not?" "Because 200 people depended on that empire for their livelihoods, their families, and the vultures were already circling, ready to tear it apart and leave everyone in the wreckage." His jaw tightened. "So I stepped up, learned the business, got my hands dirty, made decisions I'm not proud of." "Like what?" "Like ordering people killed when they threatened my territory, like burning down a warehouse full of counterfeit medication that was killing people, knowing the men inside wouldn't make it out, like breaking fingers and ribs and spirits when someone needed to learn a lesson. No hesitation, no sugarcoating. I've done terrible things, Lena. Things that would make you run if you saw them." Her stomach churned, but she forced herself to keep listening. "But I've also built schools in neighborhoods everyone else abandoned, funded hospitals, made sure families had food when their breadwinner got locked up. I'm not—" He stopped, searching for words. "I'm not a good man, but I try to be less bad than my father was. Less cruel, more strategic." And Kozlov? Was a reminder that strategy only goes so far. Sometimes you have to meet violence with violence, or everything you've built collapses. Adrian's expression was grim. He wanted to expand into human trafficking. I refused. He saw that as weakness, thought he could force my hand by threatening you. So you killed him. So I defended what was mine, him and 3 of his men. The rest scattered when they realized they were outgunned." He paused. 4 more people in the hospital, 1 of mine dead. That's the cost of doing business in my world." Lena felt sick. "How do you live with it?" "By remembering why I'm doing it. The people who depend on me. The families I keep safe. The neighborhoods that would turn into war zones if I wasn't there keeping the peace." His voice dropped. "And now, by remembering you, by wanting to be someone you could respect, even if you can't love what I do. That's not fair, putting that weight on me." "I know, but it's true anyway." She stood, pacing to the window. Outside, guards patrolled the perimeter, weapons visible. This was Adrian's world. Violence and protection wrapped together so tightly you couldn't separate them. "What if I can't do this?" she asked quietly. "What if I try and I can't reconcile who you are with, who I need you to be?" "Then I'll let you go. I'll set you up somewhere safe, somewhere no one from my world can touch you. You'll never have to see me again." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He moved behind her, close but not touching. "I won't trap you, Lena. I won't force you to stay in a life that destroys you. But I'm asking, begging if I have to, for you to try. Give me a chance to show you that this can work.
That I can be what you need while still being who I am. She turned to face him. And what do I give you? Everything I've been missing. Softness. Honesty. Someone who sees me as a man instead of a weapon. His hand came up, hesitating before touching her face. You make me want to be better. That's worth more than you know. I'm not some redemption story for you to write. I know, you're Lena, and that's enough. The simplicity of it broke through her defenses. She leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. Of what? Of losing you, of failing you, of becoming my father and watching you realize you made a mistake. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Of 100 things I can't control. You control everything. Not you. Never you. He rested his forehead against hers. So tell me, do I have a chance? Or should I start making arrangements to keep you safe from a distance? Lena thought about the past weeks. The way he'd looked at her in the restaurant, seen through every defense she had. The safety of his apartment, the clothes that fit perfectly, the money that had eliminated her constant panic, the violence he'd committed to protect her. She thought about going back to her old life. 3 jobs, $17, invisible and exhausted and alone. And she realized she didn't want to go back. Not because she needed his money or his protection, but because when she was with him, she felt seen, real, important. You have a chance, she said finally. But Adrian, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to become someone I'm not. I won't pretend your world doesn't scare me. I won't smile and nod when you talk about violence like it's normal. If this is going to work, you have to let me be angry when I need to be, scared when I need to be. You can't smooth over the hard parts. I won't. I promise. Relief flooded his expression. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might still change my mind. Fair enough. He kissed her forehead, gentle and careful. Can we go back to the city? I have work to do, and you hate it here. I don't hate it. You've been staring at that book for 3 days without turning a page. You hate it. She couldn't help but smile. Yeah, okay. I hate it. They returned to Manhattan that afternoon, the city welcoming them back with noise and chaos and the comfortable anonymity of millions. The apartment felt different now, less like a cage and more like a refuge. Lena had made a choice, and that changed everything. Over the next weeks, she learned the rhythms of Adrian's life. He left early for meetings she didn't ask about, returned late smelling like cigars and tension. Sometimes he came back with bruised knuckles, sometimes with blood on his collar that he'd change before thinking she could see. But he also came back to her. Always. Like she was the fixed point in his orbit. He took her to restaurants where people whispered his name, theaters where the best seats appeared without reservation, galleries where art dealers treated him like royalty. He introduced her to his world carefully, watching for signs she was overwhelmed. She met his people. Victor, who she'd already grown comfortable with. Sergei, his head of security, who looked at her with undisguised suspicion until Adrian made it clear she was off limits for assessment. Maria, who ran his legitimate businesses and treated Lena with cautious warmth. And she started to understand the complexity of what Adrian had built. Yes, there was violence. Yes, there was crime. But there was also order, protection, a code that meant families could sleep safely in neighborhoods other organizations would have bled dry. He's not what you expected, is he? Maria asked one afternoon over coffee. Adrian had arranged for them to meet, clearly hoping they'd become friends. No, Lena admitted. I don't know what I thought. A monster, maybe. He can be, when necessary. Maria stirred her coffee thoughtfully. But Adrian is also the man who paid for my daughter's cancer treatment when I'd only worked for him 3 months, who makes sure every family has a Christmas bonus that actually means something, who refuses to let drugs into the neighborhoods he controls because he saw what they did to his cousin. He doesn't talk about his family much. That's because most of them are dead. His father, mother, 2 brothers. This business, it takes everything if you let it. Maria's expression was serious. You're good for him, Lena. I've never seen him hesitate before making a decision, never seen him question whether violence was necessary. You make him think. That's dangerous for him, but good for everyone else. The words echoed what Victor had said weeks ago. Lena was changing him, whether she meant to or not. 2 months in, Adrian took her to a charity gala. She wore a dress that cost more than her old annual salary, felt like an imposter among Manhattan's elite, and nearly turned around 3 times before they even entered the building. "You're beautiful," Adrian murmured, his hand at the small of her back. "Stop worrying. Everyone's staring. They're supposed to. You're stunning. They're staring because they're wondering who I am, why you're with me. Let them wonder." He guided her through the crowd with easy confidence. Their opinions don't matter. But they did matter, at least a little. Lena heard the whispers, saw the calculated looks from women who'd clearly had their own designs on Adrian Volkov. She was the outsider, the nobody who'd somehow landed the city's most dangerous eligible bachelor. She was using the bathroom, trying to calm her racing heart, when 2 women entered. Designer dresses, perfect makeup, voices that carried the confidence of old money. "Did you see her?" one said. "The girl Adrian brought." "She's nobody." "I looked her up. No family, no connections, worked at a diner before he, The woman laughed. "I give it 3 months. He'll get bored. Or she'll see who he really is and run. Remember what happened to Katerina. Poor thing, though she should have known better than to ask questions." They left without ever knowing Lena had heard. She stood there, gripping the marble counter, trying to breathe through the anxiety clawing at her chest. Who was Katerina? What had happened to her? Adrian was waiting when she emerged, his expression immediately concerned. "What's wrong?" "Who's Katerina?" His face went carefully blank. "Where did you hear that name?" "Answer the question." He glanced around the crowded ballroom, then took her hand. "Not here. Come on." He led her to a private balcony, away from prying eyes and listening ears. The city sprawled below them, indifferent to their drama. "Katerina was someone I was involved with, years ago, before I met you." Adrian's voice was controlled. "She wanted more than I could give. Started asking questions about the business, about where I went at night. I warned her to stop. She didn't." "What happened to her?" "I ended it, paid her off. Made sure she was set up comfortably in California with enough money to start over." He met Lena's eyes. "She's fine. Married now, I think. But the relationship ended badly, and people talk. They think you hurt her. People think a lot of things about me. Most of them are true." His jaw tightened. "But I never hurt Katerina. I couldn't give her what she wanted. Love. A future. The parts of myself I keep locked away." "And me?" Lena's voice was small. "Can you give me those things?" "I don't know." Brutal honesty. "I've never felt this way before. Never wanted to. But with you, He stopped, searching for words. "I want to try. That's the best I can offer." It should have been devastating. It was, a little. But it was also real, which mattered more. "Okay," she said. "Okay? I'd rather have honest uncertainty than comfortable lies." She moved closer, and he wrapped his arms around her like she was precious. "Just don't compare me to her. Don't expect me to be like her or unlike her. I'm just me." "I know. That's why I want you." They stayed on the balcony for a long time, holding each other while the gala continued without them. Eventually they slipped out early, went home, and spent the night talking about everything and nothing until dawn painted the windows gold. 3 months became 4. 4 became 6. Lena started taking classes again. Literature, like she'd always wanted. Adrian paid the tuition without being asked, shrugged when she tried to thank him, told her he liked seeing her excited about something. She made friends. Real friends, not just Jess. People from her classes who didn't know about Adrian, who saw her as just another student struggling through Milton and Morrison. And slowly, carefully, she started to feel like herself again. Not the desperate, exhausted version who'd sat at the wrong table, but someone new, someone who could be both soft and strong, who could love a dangerous man while maintaining her own boundaries. Adrian changed too, subtly but noticeably. He turned down deals that would have required unnecessary violence, started funneling more money into legitimate businesses, attended fewer meetings that ended with blood on his clothes. "You're reforming him," Sergei said one day, not quite approval in his voice. "Making him soft." "I'm not making him anything. He's choosing this. For you." "For himself," Lena corrected. "I just gave him a reason to want something different." But the peace couldn't last forever. In their world, it never did. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday. Adrian came home early, his expression grim, and immediately started making calls. Lena heard him arguing in Russian, his voice tight with controlled fury. When he finally emerged from his office, it was past midnight. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Adrian," he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "There's a new player. Young, ambitious, thinks he can move into territory I've held for 10 years. He's been making noise, testing boundaries. Tonight he crossed a line." "What line?" "Sent a message, a threat." Adrian's expression was cold. "Against you." Lena's blood ran cold. "What kind of threat?" "The kind that means I need to end this now before it escalates." He moved to her, hands on her shoulders. "I'm going to handle it, but I need you to stay here tomorrow. Don't leave the building. Don't go to class. Just stay where I know you're safe." "You're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared. This guy, Alexei Morozov, he's reckless. Doesn't follow the rules. That makes him dangerous." "More dangerous than Kozlov?" "Different dangerous. Kozlov was old school, predictable. Morozov is a wild card." Adrian pulled her close. "I won't let him touch you, I swear. But I need you to trust me and do what I ask." She wanted to argue, wanted to demand he let her live her life without constant fear, but she saw the genuine worry in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, and knew this was serious. "Okay," she agreed. "I'll stay." "Thank you." He kissed her forehead. "This will be over soon, I promise." But it wasn't. The next day dragged. Lena paced the apartment, tried to read, gave up. Victor brought lunch she couldn't eat. The guards in the building seemed more alert, more numerous. At 3 p.m, the power went out. Lena's heart jumped. "Victor?" He appeared immediately, gun already drawn. "Stay in your room. Lock the door." "What's happening?" "Now, Miss Carter." She ran, locked herself in her bedroom, grabbed her phone, called Adrian. It went straight to voicemail. Gunfire erupted somewhere below, shouting, the crash of something heavy breaking. Lena backed into the corner, her whole body shaking. This was what she'd feared. This was the violence finding her despite all of Adrian's promises. The door to her room exploded inward. A man stood there, young and wild-eyed, gun raised. "You're coming with me." "No." Wasn't a question. He moved forward, and Lena grabbed the nearest thing, a lamp, and threw it. It hit him in the shoulder, barely slowing him down. He grabbed her arm, yanking her forward, and Lena screamed. Then Victor was there, emerging from somewhere, moving with lethal precision. 2 shots. The man dropped. "Are you hurt?" Victor's hands were on her, checking for injuries, even as he positioned himself between her and the door. I'm okay. What's happening?" Morozov sent a team, 12 men. They breached the lobby. Victor's voice was calm despite the chaos. "Mr. Volkov is on his way, but we need to move you now. There's a safe room. Come." He pulled her through the apartment, past bodies she tried not to look at, down a hallway she'd never noticed before. A panel slid open, revealing a reinforced room with monitors showing the building's security feeds. "Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone but me or Mr. Volkov." Victor pressed a gun into her hand. "Safety's here. Point and shoot if you have to." Then he was gone, and Lena was alone with a weapon she barely knew how to use and the sound of warfare echoing through her home. She watched the monitors, horror growing. Adrian's men were outnumbered. Morozov's team was tearing through the building like a hurricane. And then Adrian arrived. He came through the lobby like an avenging angel, Sergei and 6 others behind him. Lena watched him move with brutal efficiency, taking down Morozov's men with precision that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. This was who he really was. Not the man who brought her coffee in the morning or listened to her talk about her classes. This was Adrian Volkov, the crime lord, the killer, the force of nature who'd built an empire on violence. She should have been horrified. Instead, she felt relief so overwhelming she nearly collapsed. He was here. He'd come for her. The fighting ended quickly once Adrian took control. Morozov's remaining men scattered. The building went quiet except for the moans of the wounded and the crackling of something burning on a lower floor. Lena waited, counting seconds, until the safe room door opened. Adrian stood there, covered in blood, breathing hard, eyes wild until they found her. Then everything in him seemed to settle. "Lena!" She launched herself at him, not caring about the blood, not caring about anything except that he was alive and whole and here. "I've got you," he murmured into her hair. "I've got you. You're safe. He sent 12 men. They came for me." I know. His arms tightened around her. "But they failed. You're safe. That's all that matters." "What about Morozov?" Adrian's expression went cold. "He's next." They moved to a hotel that night while the apartment was cleaned and secured. Lena sat in the bathroom, scrubbing blood off her hands that she didn't remember getting there, trying not to think about the man Victor had killed in her bedroom doorway. Adrian knocked softly. "Can I come in?" She didn't answer, but he entered anyway, kneeling beside the bathtub where she sat fully clothed, water running cold over her hands. "Lena." He turned off the tap, wrapped a towel around her shaking hands. "Look at me." She did. His face was clean now, the blood washed away, but his eyes still held that wild edge. "I'm going after Morozov tonight," he said, before he regroups, before he tries again. "You're going to kill him?" "Yes." No hesitation, no apology. "What if I asked you not to?" Her voice came out hoarse. "What if I begged you to walk away? Take the loss? Let him have whatever he wants." Adrian's jaw tightened. "He wants you dead, Lena, or taken, used against me." "There's no walking away from that. There's no compromise." "So it's him or me." "It was always him or you. The moment he sent that threat, the moment he breached our home, he made that choice." Adrian cupped her face, and his hands were steady even though hers were still shaking. "I know what I'm asking you to accept. I know how it looks. But I can't let him live knowing what he tried to do to you. And after Morozov, there'll be someone else. There's always someone else in your world. Maybe. Probably." He didn't lie to her, never had. "But each one I handle makes the next one think twice, makes them understand that touching what's mine comes with a cost they can't afford. I'm not property. You're everything." His forehead rested against hers. "And I'm done pretending I can do this halfway. Done trying to be less of what I am. If that makes me a monster, fine, but I'm your monster, and I'll burn the entire city down before I let anyone hurt you again." Lena closed her eyes, feeling tears slip down her cheeks. "I'm scared. Of me? Of how much I understand. Of how I'm sitting here thinking about a man being killed, and my first thought isn't horror, it's relief." She pulled back to look at him. "What does that make me?" "Human. Survival isn't pretty, Lena. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes it means accepting things we swore we never would." "Is that what you tell yourself when you do terrible things?" "No. I tell myself the truth that I do terrible things because I'm good at them and because they're necessary. But with you..." He stopped, something raw crossing his face. "With you, I tell myself that maybe all the terrible things led me to that restaurant, to you sitting at my table looking at me like I was worth something more than fear. You are worth more. Because you make me believe it." He kissed her forehead, gentle despite everything. "Stay here tonight. Sergei and 4 others will guard you. Don't answer the door for anyone. I'll be back by morning. And if you're not, then Sergei has instructions. Money, documents, everything you need to disappear. You'll be taken care of." "I don't want to be taken care of. I want you alive." His smile was sad, fierce. "Then wish me luck." He stood to leave, and Lena grabbed his hand, pulling him back. "Adrian, wait." He turned, and she stood, moving into his space. "If you're going to do this, if you're going to go out there and become the man I'm trying not to be terrified of, then I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll come back. Not for the Empire, not for revenge, not for pride. Come back for me, for us. Because if you die out there, you're not just ending Morozov. You're ending everything we've built." Adrian pulled her close, and she felt him trembling. "I'll come back. I swear it." "How can you be sure?" "Because for the first time in my life, I have something worth coming back to. Someone who sees all of me and chooses to stay." He kissed her, deep and desperate. "I love you, Lena. I should have said it weeks ago, months ago, but I'm saying it now. I love you more than I've ever loved anything. The words broke something open in her chest. I love you too. Even though you're terrifying and violent and everything I swore I'd never want, I love you. Then trust me. Trust that I'll do what needs to be done and come home to you. He left, and Lena was alone with guards she barely knew and thoughts that wouldn't quiet. She paced the hotel room, watching the clock, jumping at every sound. Sergei sat by the door, cleaning his gun with methodical precision. He'll come back, he said without looking up. Adrian always does. How do you know? Because he has something worth coming back to now. Before you, he took risks, stupid ones sometimes, like he didn't care if he made it out. Sergei finally looked at her. You changed that. Made him careful. That's good for all of us. I didn't ask to be anyone's reason to live. Doesn't matter. You are anyway. He returned to his gun. Get some rest, Miss Carter. It's going to be a long night. But rest was impossible. Lena lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, counting her heartbeats, wondering if somewhere across the city, Adrian's heart was still beating too. Hours crawled past. Midnight became 1, became 2, became 3. Her phone stayed silent. The guards changed shifts. The city outside the window never slept, indifferent to her fear. At 4 in the morning, her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. It's done. Coming to you. Relief hit so hard she nearly threw up. She clutched the phone, reading and rereading those 5 words until she heard the knock at the door. Sergei checked the peephole, then opened it. Adrian stood there, looking exhausted but whole. His clothes were different. He'd changed somewhere. But she could see the tension in his shoulders, the weariness in his eyes. His gaze found Lena immediately, and something in his expression eased. Leave us, he told Sergei. The guards filed out, and then they were alone. Lena crossed the room and hit him, open-palmed, right across the face. The crack echoed in the quiet room. Adrian didn't flinch, didn't move, just looked at her with those pale, knowing eyes. You left me here, she said, her voice shaking. You went to kill a man and you left me here not knowing if you'd come back. I told you I would. You can't promise that. You can't just... Her hands were on his chest now, hitting him weakly, uselessly. You can't make me care about you and then walk into danger like it's nothing. He caught her wrists, gentle but firm. I know. I thought I'd lost you. I thought... The words broke into sobs. Adrian pulled her against his chest, holding her while she cried. His hand stroked through her hair, and she felt him trembling slightly. Not from fear, from the aftermath of whatever he'd done tonight. Is he dead? She asked finally, her voice muffled against his shirt. Yes. How many others? 3 of his men, the ones who planned the attack. Adrian's voice was flat, factual. The rest scattered when they realized Morozov was gone. They'll find new leadership, new territory. This is over. Until the next time. Maybe, but it won't be soon. I made an example tonight, made it clear what happens when someone threatens what's mine. He tilted her face up. This is the life, Lena. This is what being with me means. Violence when necessary, fear when it's useful, and me doing whatever it takes to keep you safe. I know. And you're still here. I'm still here. She wiped her eyes, trying to pull herself together. I don't know what that says about me. It says you're stronger than you think, braver than you believe. His thumb brushed away a tear she'd missed. It says you understand that the world isn't black and white, that sometimes good people do bad things for the right reasons. Are you a good person doing bad things? Or a bad person who found one good thing? Adrian considered the question seriously. I don't know. Maybe both. Maybe neither. But I know that before you, I was just surviving, going through the motions, building an empire I didn't care about, surrounded by people who feared me more than they respected me. And now? Now I have something worth protecting. Someone who sees me, all of me, and stays anyway. He kissed her, soft and careful. Now I have you. Lena kissed him back, tasting exhaustion and the ghost of whatever violence he'd committed tonight. This was who they were, who they'd become together. It wasn't simple or clean or anything like the life she'd imagined for herself. But it was real, and it was theirs. They stayed at the hotel for 3 more days while the apartment was secured, reinforced, made into something closer to a fortress than a home. When they finally returned, Lena stood in the entryway, looking at the space where men had died trying to take her. "We don't have to stay here," Adrian said, reading her hesitation. "I have other properties. We can go anywhere you want." "No, this is—" She looked around the apartment, at the space that had become home despite everything. "This is ours. I'm not letting them take that from us." Pride flickered across his expression. "Okay, but we're increasing security, more guards, better systems. I won't risk you again." "I'm not fragile." "I know. But you're precious. And I protect precious things." He was true to his word. Within a week, the building had transformed. Guards at every entrance, cameras in every hallway, bulletproof glass in the windows. It should have felt like a prison. Instead, it felt like Adrian wrapping his protection around her, keeping her safe the only way he knew how. Lena tried to return to normal. Classes, friends, the life she'd been building before Morozov. But something had shifted. She'd looked death in the face, had been hunted like prey, had watched Adrian transform into the killer everyone feared. There was no pretending anymore that her life was anything close to ordinary. Her professor noticed during office hours, 3 weeks after the attack. "Miss Carter, your last 2 papers have been, forgive me, distracted. Is everything all right?" Lena wanted to laugh. Was everything all right? She was living with a man who'd killed 4 people to protect her, who'd made her fall in love with him despite, or maybe because of, his capacity for violence. "I'm fine," she lied. "Just had some personal issues. I'll do better." But she couldn't focus. The words on the page blurred. Her mind kept returning to that night, to the gunfire and the blood and the terrible relief when Adrian walked through the door alive. She was sitting in the library, staring at a book she hadn't read a word of, when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Lena Carter?" A woman's voice, professional. "This is Detective Sarah Morrison with NYPD. I was hoping we could talk about the incident at your apartment building 3 weeks ago." Her blood ran cold. "I already spoke to the police. Gave my statement." "I know, I've read it. Very thorough. Very careful." A pause. "Maybe too careful." "Miss Carter, I'm investigating Adrian Volkov. Have been for 2 years. And I think you might be able to help me." "I have nothing to say to you." "You're a smart woman, college-educated, from what I understand. Good family. You don't belong in Volkov's world. Whatever hold he has on you, he doesn't have a hold on me. I'm exactly where I choose to be." "Are you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're being held prisoner by a violent criminal who—" Lena hung up. Her hands shook as she stared at the phone. A detective, investigating Adrian for 2 years. She should tell him, should warn him immediately. But something made her hesitate. What if the detective was right? What if Lena had been so caught up in Adrian's world, so desperate to feel valued and protected, that she'd lost sight of who she really was? She went home and found Adrian in his office, on the phone speaking rapid Russian. He saw her and smiled, holding up one finger. Just a minute. Lena watched him, really watched him. The expensive suit, the controlled power in every movement, the way he commanded respect through the phone without raising his voice. This was Adrian Volkov, the crime lord, the man who'd built an empire on fear. But this was also the man who brought her coffee every morning exactly how she liked it, who listened to her talk about literature for hours without complaint, who held her through nightmares and whispered promises in the dark. He ended the call and turned to her fully. "Hey, how was class?" "A detective called me, Morrison, said she's been investigating you for 2 years." The warmth in his expression disappeared, replaced by cold calculation. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing. I hung up." Lena moved into the room, studying his face. "But Adrian, she's not going to stop. And if she's been investigating you for 2 years, she probably has evidence, witnesses, a case." He leaned back in his chair. "She has theories and circumstantial connections, nothing that would hold up in court." "I'm careful, Lena. I always have been. That's not the point. The point is that your world is closing in. Morozov was just one threat. What about the police? What about federal investigators? How long before what? Before I get arrested? Convicted?" He stood, moving around the desk. "It won't happen. I have lawyers, judges, people in positions that matter. Morrison can investigate all she wants. She won't find what she needs.
You sound so sure. I am sure. This is what I do, Lena. I survive. I protect what's mine, and I make sure the system works for me, not against me. That's not... She stopped, frustrated. That's not sustainable. Eventually, something's going to give. Then I'll handle it when it does. He pulled her close, and she let herself be held even though her mind was racing. But I won't live my life in fear of what might happen. I deal with what is. And what is? Right now, you and me, safe, together. Everything else is just noise. She wanted to believe him, wanted to sink into his certainty and stop questioning. But Morrison's words echoed in her head. You don't belong in his world. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay beside Adrian, listening to him breathe, and wondered what she'd become. The girl who'd sat at that restaurant table would never have ignored a detective's call, would never have chosen a criminal over doing the right thing. But that girl hadn't known what it was like to be seen, to matter, to be loved with a fierce, consuming intensity that made everything else seem pale in comparison. At 2 a.m, she gave up on sleep and went to Adrian's office. She wasn't snooping, she told herself that firmly, just looking for something to read, but her eyes caught on a folder marked Transition Plans. Curiosity won. She opened it. Inside were documents, business plans, transfer agreements, proposals for legitimate enterprises, real estate development, security consulting, investment funds. Pages and pages of careful planning for moving away from the criminal empire he'd inherited. And at the bottom, a handwritten note in Adrian's sharp script. For Sophia, for a clean legacy. Sophia, a name she'd never heard before. Lena was still standing there holding the folder when Adrian appeared in the doorway. Can't sleep? He asked. She held up the folder. Who's Sophia? His expression shifted. Not angry, exactly, just careful. A name, for our future daughter, if we have one. The words hit her like a physical blow. You're planning for children? I'm planning for a life beyond what I have now. A legitimate business I can pass down without shame. A family that doesn't have to carry my father's sins. He moved into the room, and she saw vulnerability in his eyes she'd never noticed before. I'm planning for a future with you, Lena. One where I'm not looking over my shoulder constantly. Where you don't have to be scared every time I leave the apartment. How long have you been planning this? Since the night you stayed. Since I realized I didn't just want you for now, I wanted you forever. And that meant building something that could last. He took the folder from her hands gently. It's going to take time, maybe years. I can't just walk away from everything overnight. But I'm working toward it, slowly, carefully. Lena sank into a chair, overwhelmed. You never told me. I wasn't sure you'd believe me. Wasn't sure I'd succeed. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands. But I'm trying, Lena. For you. For us. For the family I want to build with you. A detective is investigating you. Your enemies are circling. How are you supposed to transition to legitimate business when the same way I've survived everything else? Carefully, strategically, with good lawyers and better planning. His grip tightened. I know it's not perfect. I know it's messy and complicated, but I'm asking you to trust me, to believe that I can get us to the other side of this. She looked at him, this man who'd killed for her, who was trying to change for her, who planned futures with children he'd named Sophia because he believed they could have something beautiful together. Okay, she whispered. I trust you. The relief on his face was everything. The next morning, Detective Morrison called again. This time, Lena answered. I told you I have nothing to say. Just meet with me. One conversation. If after that you still want to protect him, I'll leave you alone. Why should I believe you? Because I'm not trying to destroy your life, Miss Carter. I'm trying to understand it. To understand why someone like you would choose someone like him. The words stung because they echoed Lena's own doubts. Fine. One conversation, but not at a police station. There's a coffee shop on 45th, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Lena hung up and immediately told Adrian. He didn't try to stop her, which surprised her. Be careful what you say. Morrison's good at her job. She'll try to turn your words against me. I'm not going to incriminate you. I know.
but even innocuous details can become evidence in the right hands. He kissed her forehead. And Lena, whatever she tells you about me, whatever evidence she claims to have, ask yourself if it changes what you know to be true, if it changes who I am to you. The next day, Lena sat across from Detective Morrison in a coffee shop that smelled like burned beans and desperation. Morrison was younger than she'd sounded on the phone, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and the weariness of someone who'd seen too much. "Thank you for meeting me," Morrison said. "I haven't agreed to anything. I'm just listening." "Fair enough." Morrison pulled out a folder. Adrian Volkov, born to Dmitry Volkov, known crime boss in 1982, raised in the business, first confirmed kill at age 19. I don't need his biography. But you need context, because the man you're living with isn't who you think he is. Morrison opened the folder, showing photos. Crime scenes. Bodies. Evidence of violence that made Lena's stomach turn. 23 suspected murders. 47 assaults. Extortion, racketeering, illegal gambling operations. And those are just the ones we can prove. Can you? Prove them, I mean. Morrison's jaw tightened. We have evidence. Witnesses. Paper trails. But every time we get close, something happens. Witnesses recant. Evidence disappears. Judges throw out cases on technicalities. So you have nothing. We have everything. We just can't make it stick because Volkov has half the city in his pocket. Morrison leaned forward. But you, Miss Carter, you're his weakness, his blind spot. If you help us, I'm not helping you. He's a killer. He's destroyed lives, families. The man you think you love is a monster. He's a man. Lena kept her voice steady, even though her hands were shaking. A complicated, violent, dangerous man. But he's also someone who's trying to be better, who's working toward legitimate business, who's lying to you. Lena, can I call you Lena? Morrison didn't wait for permission. He's not changing. Men like Volkov don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are. You don't know him. And you do? You've known him what, 6 months? I've been tracking him for 2 years. I know every business he owns, every person he's hurt, every crime he's committed. What do you know besides what he's chosen to show you? The question cut deep because it was valid. What did she really know about Adrian beyond what he'd told her? I know he protects the people who depend on him, Lena said slowly. I know he's funded schools and hospitals in neighborhoods everyone else forgot. I know he has a code, rules he won't break even when it would be profitable. A code? Like not trafficking humans? Morrison's smile was bitter. That's not morality, Lena. That's brand management. Volkov stays away from certain crimes because they're too visible, too likely to bring federal attention. It's strategy, not ethics. Maybe, but it's still choice. He could do those things and make more money. He chooses not to. He also chooses to kill people who cross him, to beat men unconscious for looking at him wrong, to burn buildings with people inside. Morrison pulled out more photos. This is who you're defending. Lena looked at the photos, really looked. The violence was undeniable, the destruction real. These weren't abstract concepts or distant threats. These were lives ended, families destroyed, all by the man she'd chosen to love. I know what he is, she said finally. I'm not naive, detective. I know Adrian's done terrible things, but I also know he's trying to leave that life behind. He's transitioning to legitimate business, building something different. He told you that? I saw the plans, the transfer agreements, the business proposals. Morrison laughed, sharp and humorless. Of course you did, because he wanted you to see them, wanted you to believe he's changing. It's manipulation, Lena. Classic abuser tactic. Show you the man you want to see, make you think you can save him, and by the time you realize it's a lie, you're in too deep to leave. He's not abusing me. Physical abuse isn't the only kind. Isolation, control, making you dependent on him. I'm not isolated. I have friends, classes, my own life. Do you? Or do you have the life he allows you to have? When was the last time you made a decision without considering how it would affect him? Lena opened her mouth to respond and realized she didn't have an answer. Morrison saw her hesitation and pressed forward. He's in your head, Lena, making you question your own judgment. Making you think loving him is a choice when really it's a cage he's built so carefully you don't see the bars. You're wrong. Am I? Then walk away.
Right now. If he's not controlling you, if you're really free, then leave him. Go back to your old life. Prove to me that you're choosing this instead of being trapped in it. I don't have to prove anything to you. No, but maybe you should prove it to yourself. Morrison closed the folder. I'm going to take Volkov down, Lena, with or without your help. But I'd rather it be with, because I think somewhere inside you, you know this is wrong. You know you deserve better than a life built on blood. She stood, leaving a business card on the table. When you're ready to save yourself, call me. Before it's too late. Lena sat in the coffee shop long after Morrison left, staring at the card. Was she right? Was Adrian manipulating her, showing her only what he wanted her to see? Or was she genuinely choosing this life, eyes open, aware of the costs? She thought about that first night, the desperation that had led her to consider stealing, the exhaustion of working 3 jobs for nothing, the invisibility that had defined her entire existence. Adrian had seen her, had valued her, had given her a life where she didn't have to fight every second just to survive. But at what cost? She went home to find Adrian waiting, his expression tense. How did it go? She showed me photos, crime scenes, evidence of things you've done. I'm sure she did. She thinks you're manipulating me, that I'm trapped and too blind to see it. Do you think that? The question hung between them, heavy and unavoidable. I don't know, Lena admitted. I want to say no. I want to believe that I'm choosing this freely. But Adrian, she made some good points. About control, about isolation, about how a rich, powerful man must be abusing the poor girl he rescued. His voice was sharp. That's what she wants you to think. That you're a victim, that you have no agency. Don't I? When was the last time I made a major decision without consulting you? When was the last time I did something you didn't approve of? You met with Morrison. I didn't approve of that. But you didn't stop me. Because I trust you. Because I believe you're smart enough to see through her manipulation. He moved closer, and she forced herself not to step back. She's trying to drive a wedge between us, Lena, using your doubts against you, making you question what we have. Maybe I should question it. Maybe that's healthy. Question all you want, but do it honestly. Don't let Morrison put words in your mouth or thoughts in your head. His hand cupped her face. You know me. You know who I am, what I've done, what I'm trying to become. Trust that knowledge. Trust yourself. What if trusting myself means leaving? Pain flickered across his expression. Then I'll let you go, like I promised. But Lena, ask yourself, are you leaving because you want to, or because Morrison convinced you that you should? She didn't have an answer. That night, she lay awake again, Adrian sleeping beside her, and tried to untangle her own feelings from Morrison's accusations. It was impossible. Everything was too knotted together, love and fear, choice and necessity, freedom and safety. At dawn, she made a decision. She woke Adrian gently. I need space. Time to think without you or Morrison or anyone else influencing me. He sat up slowly. What do you need? I want to go back to my old apartment. Stay with Jess for a week. Just be alone with my thoughts. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? That I'll lock you in and refuse to let you leave? That's exactly what Morrison expects. His voice was calm despite the tension in his shoulders. You need space. Take it. I'm not going to stop you. You'll have me followed. Yes, for your protection, not to control you. There are still people out there who know you're important to me. I won't leave you unprotected. And if I ask you to call them off? Then I'd ask you to reconsider, to let me keep you safe even if you need distance. He took her hand. I love you, Lena. That doesn't go away just because you're questioning us. Take your time. Figure out what you want. I'll be here when you're ready. She packed a bag and left within the hour. Jess opened the door, took one look at Lena's face, and pulled her into a hug. What happened? I don't know. Everything. Nothing. I need to think. Then think. You can stay as long as you need. The apartment was exactly as Lena remembered. Cramped, cluttered, filled with secondhand furniture and the smell of cheap air freshener. It should have felt like home. Instead, it felt like someone else's life. She spent 3 days doing nothing, not going to class, not answering her phone except for one text to Adrian. I'm okay. Still thinking.
His response was immediate. Take all the time you need. I love you. On the fourth day, Jess sat her down with coffee and the direct approach she was known for. Okay, talk. What's really going on? I don't know if I'm choosing Adrian or if he's chosen me, and I've just gone along with it because it's easier than my old life. Wow, that's a big question. A detective told me I'm being manipulated, that Adrian's controlling me and I'm too blind to see it. Are you? I don't think so, but would I know if I was? Jess was quiet for a moment. Here's what I know. When you were with Marcus, or trying to be, you were anxious, constantly checking your phone, making yourself smaller, trying to be what you thought he wanted. With Adrian, you're bigger, more confident. You push back when you disagree. You demand honesty. But I'm also living in his world, following his rules, accepting his protection. Because you choose to. Lena, I've known you for 4 years. You don't do anything you don't want to do. You're the most stubborn person I know. If you were truly trapped, you'd have found a way out by now. What if I'm staying because I'm scared of going back to being nobody? Then you're human. Everyone's scared of something. The question is, are you happy with him? Was she? Lena thought about the life she'd built with Adrian. The mornings drinking coffee while he read the news. The way he listened when she talked about her classes. The fierce, consuming way he loved her. The safety of knowing someone valued her enough to kill for her. Yes, she said finally. I'm happy, but I'm also terrified. And I don't know if that's a red flag or just the reality of loving someone dangerous. Maybe both, Jess suggested. Maybe you can be happy and terrified, in love and aware of the risks. It doesn't have to be one or the other. On the 5th day, Detective Morrison called again. Have you thought about what I said? I have. And I think you're doing your job. Trying to take down a criminal you believe is dangerous. I respect that. Lena took a breath. But I'm not going to help you. Because whatever Adrian's done, whatever crimes he's committed, he's also trying to change, to build something better. And I believe in that possibility. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. She paused. Can I ask you something? Why do you care so much about me specifically? There must be dozens of people connected to Adrian. Why target me? Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Because you remind me of my sister. She got involved with someone like Volkov, thought she could change him, that her love would be enough. It wasn't. She's dead now. Has been for 6 years. The words hit like a punch. I'm sorry. So am I. And I don't want to watch another smart, capable woman throw her life away on a man who will ultimately destroy her. Morrison's voice softened. But I can't force you to save yourself. Just be careful, Lena. And when things go wrong, and they will, remember that you have options. She hung up, and Lena sat with the weight of Morrison's story. Another woman. Another criminal. Another ending written in blood. Was that her future? Or could she and Adrian actually beat the odds? On the 7th day, Lena went back. She didn't call ahead, just packed her bag, thanked Jess, and took the subway to the building she'd left a week ago. The guards recognized her immediately, let her through without question. The apartment was quiet when she entered. Adrian sat at the window, staring out at the city, and she realized with a start that he looked smaller somehow, diminished. You came back, he said without turning around. I told you I needed to think. I thought. And? He finally looked at her, and his eyes were raw, vulnerable. What did you decide? I decided that Morrison's right about some things. You're dangerous. You have done terrible things, and loving you comes with risks I can't fully predict or control. His expression shuddered. Okay, but I also decided that she's wrong about the important things. I'm not your victim. I'm not trapped. I'm choosing this, choosing you, with my eyes open and my mind clear. She moved closer. I know what you are, Adrian. I know the violence, the darkness, the empire built on fear. And I'm choosing to love you anyway. To believe that you can be more than your worst actions. To build a future with you despite all the reasons I shouldn't. Lena. But I need something from you. I need complete honesty. No more secrets, no more carefully curated information. If we're doing this, I need to know everything. The good, the bad, the things you're ashamed of, all of it. That's a lot to ask. I know, but it's what I need to stay, to really, truly commit to this life with you. Adrian stood, closing the distance between them. You want honesty? Fine. I'm terrified of losing you, of failing you, of becoming my father and watching you realize you made a mistake. I wake up every morning wondering how long before you see who I really am and run.
I already see who you really are. No, you see who I am with you, the version of myself I want to be. You haven't seen me at my worst, haven't watched me break someone because they looked at me wrong, haven't seen the coldness that takes over when I'm making decisions about who lives and who dies. Then show me all of it. Trust me enough to let me see everything. He searched her face for a long moment. If I do this, if I show you the monster and you can't handle it, then at least we'll know. At least we'll have tried. She took his hands. I'm not asking for perfection, Adrian. I'm asking for truth. Can you give me that? Yes. No hesitation this time. Just raw, painful honesty. I can give you that. And over the next months, he did. He took her to meetings she'd never been allowed to attend before.
Let her see him negotiate with cold precision, make decisions that affected hundreds of lives, exercise the power he usually kept hidden from her. He didn't shield her from the realities of his empire anymore. She watched him order a beating for a man who'd stolen from the organization. Saw the calculation in his eyes as he decided exactly how much punishment was necessary to maintain order without crossing into unnecessary cruelty. She met his people, not just the public faces like Maria and Victor, but the enforcers, the collectors, the men who carried out his orders without question. Saw the fear and respect in their eyes when they looked at him. And slowly, carefully, she began to understand the full scope of what Adrian had built. It wasn't just violence and crime, it was a structure, a system that provided order in neighborhoods the city had abandoned. It was protection for people who couldn't get it legally. It was brutal and messy and morally complicated in ways that made her head hurt. But it was also undeniably effective. Do you understand now? Adrian asked one night after a particularly difficult meeting. This is what I do, who I am. I'm starting to. And I'm still here. The relief in his expression was everything. But honesty went both ways. Lena told him about Morrison's sister, about the fear that she was repeating history, that their story would end the same way. It won't, Adrian said fiercely. I won't let it. You can't control everything. No, but I can control this. Us. I can keep working toward legitimate business. I can protect you better than Morrison's sister was ever protected. I can be smarter, more careful, more dedicated to getting us both through this alive and together. And if you can't, if despite everything then we end up together. Whatever happens, Lena, we face it together. That's the promise I'm making you. No more keeping you in the dark. No more protecting you from hard truths. We're partners, equals, in everything. It was what she'd needed to hear. Slowly, the pieces of their life came together in new ways. Lena returned to her classes, but now she could focus because she wasn't constantly worried about money or safety. She made friends with the other women in Adrian's organization, wives, girlfriends, sisters who'd chosen this life the same way she had. They weren't what she expected. They were smart, capable women who'd made calculated decisions about love and safety and the price of both. They welcomed her without judgment, shared strategies for maintaining independence within a controlling world, taught her the unspoken rules of their shared reality, and Adrian continued his slow transition away from crime. It wasn't dramatic or sudden, just a steady, careful shift of resources from illegal enterprises to legitimate businesses. Real estate developments in gentrifying neighborhoods, security consulting for corporations that didn't ask too many questions about his background, investment funds that turned dirty money clean through enough layers that no one could trace it back. 2 years after that first night at the restaurant, Adrian called a meeting of his key people. Lena sat beside him, no longer hidden or protected from his business. I'm stepping back, he announced, transferring most operations to you. He looked at Sergei, at Maria, at the others who'd served him for years. I'll maintain oversight, but day-to-day decisions are yours. I'm focusing on the legitimate businesses, building something that can last. There was surprise, some resistance, questions about timing and strategy. But ultimately, they accepted it. Because Adrian had earned their loyalty, and because he'd chosen successors who understood the rules.
Why now? Sergei asked after the meeting, when it was just the three of them, him, Adrian, and Lena. Because I'm getting married, Adrian said, looking at Lena. And I want to build a life that doesn't require my wife to constantly worry about whether I'm coming home in a body bag. Lena's breath caught. They'd talked about marriage in abstract terms, but never like this. Never as an imminent reality. Is that a proposal? She asked. No, this is...
He got down on one knee right there in his office with Sergei as witness and pulled out a ring box. Lena Carter, you sat at my table when you could have sat anywhere. You stayed when any sane person would have run. You looked at every dark part of me and chose to love me anyway. Will you marry me? Will you build this legitimately complicated life with me? Tears streamed down her face. Yes, God, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, simple, elegant, perfect, and kissed her while Sergei looked away with what might have been a smile. They were married 6 months later in a small ceremony that somehow still had 200 guests. The mix was surreal. Lena's college friends sitting next to Russian enforcers, her professors making awkward small talk with reformed criminals, Jess standing as maid of honor while Victor gave Adrian away. Detective Morrison watched from across the street, Lena knew. She'd seen the unmarked car, the surveillance that never quite stopped. But she'd stopped caring. Morrison could investigate all she wanted. Lena had made her choice. The reception was at Adrian's estate upstate, the same compound where she'd hidden after Kozlov. But it felt different now. Not like a fortress, but like a beginning. Mrs. Volkov, Adrian murmured, dancing with her under lights strung between trees.
How does it feel? Strange. Right. Terrifying. That's my girl, always honest. They danced until the stars came out, surrounded by people from both their worlds, building something new from the ashes of who they'd been. 2 months later, Lena found out she was pregnant. She stared at the test for 10 minutes, trying to process. A child. Their child. Created from chaos and violence and the most unlikely love story she could imagine. When she told Adrian, he went pale, actually pale, the color draining from his face as he sank into a chair. Say something, Lena whispered. I'm going to be a father. You are. I don't know how to be a father. My father was... He was a monster, Lena. What if I... You're not him. You've spent years proving you're not him. She knelt in front of him, taking his hands. You're going to be a great father. Protective, yes. Maybe overprotective, but loving, present. Everything your father wasn't. I'm scared. So am I. But we're doing this together. He pulled her close, and she felt him trembling. I'm going to accelerate the transition, get completely out of the illegal side within a year, before the baby comes. I want to be someone they can be proud of. They'll be proud of you anyway, because you're choosing to be better, choosing to change. Over the next months, Adrian worked obsessively to clean up his empire. He transferred remaining criminal operations to trusted lieutenants, maintained oversight, but stepped back from direct involvement, focused all his energy on building legitimate businesses that could sustain them. It wasn't easy. There were threats from competitors who saw his withdrawal as weakness, attempts to pull him back in, to force him into the old patterns. But Adrian held firm. I have something more important now, he told Sergei, when asked why he was turning down a lucrative but violent opportunity. I have a family to protect, a future to build. That matters more than money or power or keeping the empire intact. Their daughter was born on a spring morning, small and perfect and impossibly precious. Adrian held her with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face, whispering promises in Russian that Lena didn't understand but felt in her bones. Sophia, he said. Her name is Sophia, after my mother. Lena had never seen him so vulnerable, so completely undone by love. This was Adrian stripped of all defenses, raw and real and entirely devoted. Hi, Sophia, she whispered, touching her daughter's tiny hand. Welcome to your wonderfully complicated life. The first year was chaos. Sleepless nights, endless feedings, the constant terror that they were doing everything wrong. But it was also magic. Watching Adrian transform into a father, seeing him soft and gentle with this tiny human who had his eyes in Lena's stubborn chin. He'd completely withdrawn from the criminal enterprise by Sophia's first birthday, transferred everything, maintained only financial interest in the legitimate businesses. He was, for all intents and purposes, a legal businessman now. "How does it feel?" Lena asked on the anniversary of Sophia's birth. "Strange. Empty sometimes. I spent 20 years building that empire, and now it's just gone." "Not gone. Transformed. You transformed it into something better." "Maybe. Or maybe I just found something worth transforming for." 3 years later, their son was born. Alexander, who had Adrian's intensity from day one. The family was complete in ways Lena had never imagined when she'd sat at that restaurant table so many years ago. Detective Morrison stopped investigating. Lena learned this through Sergei, who still kept tabs on such things. Morrison had been reassigned, her case against Adrian closed due to lack of evidence and his documented transition to legitimate business. "She gave up," Sergei said. "Or she accepted that he changed," Lena suggested. "Maybe, or maybe she just ran out of time." Lena never found out which it was. On their 10-year anniversary, they returned to Aurelio's, the same restaurant where it had all started, the same table where Lena had sat, desperate and alone, not knowing her life was about to change forever. "Do you remember?" Adrian asked, holding her hand across the table. "Every second, you sat down and looked at me like you were the most important thing in the room, because you were." He smiled. "You still are. Even with the kids? The business? Everything else? Especially with all of that. None of it means anything without you." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small box. "I got you something." "Adrian, we said no gifts." "I lied." He opened the box, revealing a necklace, simple, elegant, with a pendant that held 3 small stones. One for Sophia, one for Alexander, one for us, the family we built. Lena's eyes filled with tears. "It's perfect. You're perfect. The life we've built is perfect. Not easy, not simple, but ours." He stood, moving to clasp the necklace around her throat. "Thank you for sitting at the wrong table, Lena Volkov. Thank you for staying. Thank you for building this impossible, beautiful life with me. Thank you for seeing me, for making me matter." They kissed across the table where it had all begun, 2 people who'd found each other in the chaos and built something real, something lasting. Later they went home to their children. Sophia was practicing piano, her determination evident in every note. Alexander was building elaborate structures with blocks, narrating the entire process with the seriousness of a tiny architect. Victor was reading them stories, embellishing with the drama he brought to everything. Adrian pulled Lena close as they watched from the doorway. "This is it," he said quietly. "This is what I was building toward without knowing it. Not the empire, not the power. This, family, home, love. No regrets? Not one." "You?" Lena thought about the girl she'd been, desperate, invisible, struggling. She thought about the choice she'd made that night, the risk she'd taken. She thought about every hard moment since, every fear she'd faced, every time she'd chosen to stay when leaving would have been easier. She thought about Detective Morrison's sister, about all the ways their story could have ended differently, all the violence and danger and chaos that had threatened to destroy them. But they'd survived, more than survived. They'd built something extraordinary from the wreckage of who they'd been. "Not one regret," she said finally, "not a single one." Because the night Lena Carter sat at the wrong table, she didn't lose her life. She found it. She found Adrian, broken and dangerous and trying to be better. She found purpose, value, a place in the world that had always rejected her. She found love that was messy and complicated and fierce enough to transform them both. And most importantly, she found herself. Not the invisible girl working 3 jobs, not the victim everyone expected her to be, but Lena Volkov, strong, clear-eyed, capable of loving a monster and making him human again. The restaurant faded from her thoughts, replaced by the present moment. Her children laughing, her husband's arm around her shoulders. The life they'd built together, imperfect and real and entirely theirs. It hadn't been easy. It had required sacrifice, compromise, accepting truths she'd rather ignore. It had meant choosing love over safety, possibility over certainty, a dangerous man over an easy life.
But looking at her family now, Lena knew she'd make the same choice again. Every time. Without hesitation. Because some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. Some are fate, disguised as chance encounters and wrong tables and moments that change everything. And this, all of this, had been worth it. Every dangerous, complicated, beautiful moment of it.